Hello, everybody. I'm here with Jim Hogue, and we're preparing a little video for you to bring you up to date where we are. It's March 10th, and Jim was just beginning to talk about how their motion to dismiss, the defendants have already filed a motion to dismiss, and we have objection to motion to dismiss in the works. So Jim was describing some of the elements of consideration about that. Jim, go ahead. I wanted to catch it.
The word that is used in this is standing. And
Can you put your microphone right up to your face?
Yeah, all right.
Because last time people had a hard time hearing.
Okay. The word that is used to describe the motion to dismiss is standing, and you saw that crop up conveniently so that the Supreme Court didn't have to deal with the 5 different states that had questioned the recent election. So you all know the word standing in a legal case. And
can I ask you, I'm sorry, can I ask you why the word standing, or the understanding of what standing is, gave the Supreme Court the right to dismiss hearing the evidence in the election cases?
I don't think they said. I think they brushed it away and said, "Oh, let's call it standing." But from my understanding of that word, a person withstanding one must be harmed, must be able to show harm, and could be suing for damages, or could be requesting that the practice end, or you can sue for whatever reason you want. You have standing if you're in the right court, if you're in the right district, all that.
Jurisdiction.
Yeah, I believe you have to be an American citizen, but I'm not sure about that when it comes to the kind of thing we're talking about right now. And that's, if you can prove that you have been harmed and that you have a legitimate gripe to bring before the court, you should be able to face a trial by jury or whatever else you want. That should be essentially
right.
All you have to prove when it comes to standing.
Right. And they also wanted to claim sovereign immunity, as if you can't sue the king, is the sort of the
sovereign.
So
you can't sue the sovereign.
Right. So in other words, they want to claim that the defendants in this case, Scott, Levine, and Donovan, have the right to do everything they've done because they are the king, and we can't question it or challenge it in court. That was another element.
Before we leave standing, I want to explain to people why the state can throw things out under that umbrella that I think are bogus. And there's just been a case that supports my idea. I forwarded it on to the group. I can't remember, of course, exactly when and what the title of what the subject title was, but there's been a court case in which the judge says, now, wait a minute, you can't slip some of those things under the umbrella of standing. For example, just because the governor stopped doing something on April 3rd, that doesn't mean that now that it's October, you lose your standing. What does that have to do with standing?
Right. The passage of time and the alterations of the harms doesn't change the fact that they happened.
Right. And likewise with any crime, it doesn't fly.
Right.
Absurd. There's a statute of limitations, but that's like 8 years usually, depending on the nature of the crime. But you can't say, oh, you can't sue me for that because I already stopped doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's any 3-year-old knows that's a laughable proposition. But yet here it is in writing. If you read the motion to dismiss, they say he already fixed it. And
Mhm.
what you just sent me about Ohio and Vermont, that's exactly what they were saying. Oh, well, he already fixed that. So you don't need standing in
Mhm.
this case. It seems to me that if that's the law, as Charles Dickens said, then the law is a ass.
In other words, I could go kick and beat someone up and then they would have no claims because the event had passed.
Yeah, right. Because I stopped doing it.
Right, right. So yeah, I just finished composing an objection to the motion to dismiss. And I had some advice or some counsel. There's a couple of wonderful attorneys who are kind of looking over our shoulder, if not stepping up to take the reins. And it was to make things much more direct and simplified, whereas our original complaint, we not only mimicked the Ohio suit, but it really went into depth to show that there was cause for questioning the emergency and questioning the science, which none of that had gotten through the press or to the public in any other way. So I thought I would like to go over that motion, that objection to the motion to dismiss with you, Jim, and for everyone, if you're willing to. It's
Yeah.
It's 7 pages long, so it's a lot less.
Well, we should still keep this interview to about half an hour because people will
Yeah,
generally not want to stay with it any longer than that.
yeah. So yeah, we should do it. Let me share screen and go to this one, share. Okay, so here's, of course, the header always looks like this. And it's headed up plaintiff's objection to defendant's motion to dismiss. Now come the plaintiffs with our objection to the defendant's motion to dismiss and simplifying the presentation of our claims to dispel all possible confusion by anyone.
Okay, one mistake, if I don't mention it now, I won't. I remember that I made a correction to you about defendants. And if it's more than one, then the apostrophe comes after the word.
Oh, correct.
And there you have one in the middle there.
Yeah,
Okay, good enough.
thank you. These little things have to be caught. So would you like to read the points? We'll just go through it, and any comments you have or we will have.
Okay, so all you viewers out there, this is what we are sending to the court in hopes that he will deny their motion to dismiss. Okay, the justification for a continued state of emergency is scientifically unsubstantiable. Unsubstantiable?
Yeah,
Is that a word?
well, it would be underlined if it wasn't.
It what?
It would be
Oh,
underlined.
that's right. The automatic thing.
Yeah.
Unsubstantiable. Okay, I could probably come up with a regular English word with all that in it that doesn't do that.
I'll be happy for it.
I don't want to stop what I'm doing right now. Or unsubstantiated, that's definitely a word. But to make it, I don't know about understandable. That would mean it would be impossible to
Okay,
substantiate it.
I just changed it.
Yeah, okay, we can check
This-
the dictionary
this is
later.
good.
All right, moving right along. The justification is scientifically unsubstantiated and was only indicated for the first weeks of the pandemic until it was clear that 3.4% death rate was a false number, which would have resulted in 21,215 dead Vermonters. Number two, the continued state of emergency is economically damning in a manner that causes empirical, provable, and endurable harm to the quality and nature of life in Vermont.
Enduring harm.
What did I say?
Endurable.
Oh,
Are you okay with enduring?
yes, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Defendants continued a state of emergency and yes, and draconian mandates have destroyed the fabric of Vermont society by destroying the rituals of our society, inclusive of holiday rituals and religious truth. Okay, there should be a comma after the first emergency, the first word emergency up there, because it's two different thoughts. Oh no, I'm sorry. I misread that. No, you're right. I created a word by mistake. Okay.
Okay,
There is no constitutional support for the mandates of this state of emergency. Saying no constitutional support is probably incorrect.
okay,
There
is,
must be some. There is. Well, we have to rewrite that sentence to make
okay.
it look.
I'm gonna just highlight that one, so we come back to it. Everyone, this is the kind of work that we have to do. I'm gonna do text, strike through, so we'll come back to that later.
Okay. The methodology of the defendants in handling the pandemic, the lockdown of healthy people is unconstitutional and administered as a scientific experiment. It has never been done before and has failed its objectives. Well, there are statistics that show that hundreds, thousands of people have died as a direct result of the health ramifications of the lockdown.
Do you want me to put, statistics
The lockdown of
show deaths by lockdown in, in,
statistics show deaths, don't say it quite as strongly as that, following a lockdown.
why not by lockdown? Isn't it true,
because
suicide?
They don't know for sure that the lockdown causes the death. So we want to play the complete objective
Yeah,
game. I mean, we know that if a number of deaths occur immediately after a lockdown, way disproportionate, we know that the lockdown caused the deaths. But a court
occurred. Deaths by lockdown and remain to be.
Go ahead, you have to finish it first.
Deaths by lockdown have occurred and remain to be fully documented.
Yeah. What we have to do there is find that thing that I sent out like ages ago, and I can't find it. I've tried since.
Yeah,
There's the Irish scholar who's documented very much like that.
yeah, I mean, what I want to, in failing its objectives, that's part of deaths by lockdowns. I don't want to get into the proof so much. I just want to state
Okay.
our position.
Okay, that's fine. Your first sentence, by the way, the lockdown of healthy people is unconstitutional. Well, isn't our point that the lockdown of unhealthy people is also unconstitutional?
Well, under a pandemic, under an emergency, they have to protect public health.
Okay. Then who determines whether somebody is healthy? It's the symptoms then.
Correct, and that's further down.
Yes.
About asymptomatic.
The lockdown of.
Okay, we're on B.
Okay, I'll keep that in my head. The mask mandate of healthy people is unconstitutional, experimental, not supported by existing studies, and is in fact harmful psychologically and, physiologically and psychologically. That's a great sentence. I would take out the words in fact, is harmful.
Okay.
And is harmful physiologically and psychologically. And we intend to prove that if we get to court. Okay. The basis of the pandemic rests on results of a PCR test that scientifically can be proven
I know we need commas. Does not.
That's a little messy, but let me start again. The basis
Okay.
of the pandemic rests on results of a PCR test. Well, now they rest on not only the PCR test. There's, I forget the other names. but-
Antigen, and the antigen test doesn't measure a live virus. Can't tell
No.
the difference.
Okay. So do you want to add the antigen test or just leave it PCR?
I- And antigen tests.
Okay. Antigen test with S on test. No,
What?
that's good. Never mind the S. The basis of the pandemic rests on results. The basis of the pandemic.
It is the basis
Yes.
of the, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I know. I'm just computing what the word basis means to people in that sentence. Yeah, okay. The basis of the pandemic rests on results of a PCR test and antigen test that I would say take out that scientifically
Yep. That does not and cannot assess with any reliable accuracy the existence or presence of a live virus.
I think that's good and cannot access and cannot assess with. I didn't know assess with. You mean access or assess?
Assess with any
Assess,
reliable
to-
accuracy.
To put a value on something, to assess.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's,
I can put that scientifically does not and cannot instead of taking out the prove. Because that's their favorite thing, and like
okay.
does not and cannot assess with any reliable accuracy the existence or presence of a live virus. Additionally, the PCR test has been conducted using cycles that produce fraudulent positive. This means that deaths are in question and cases are in question.
That's true. Can you back up to C? I think not assess. Usually the PCR test has been conducted using cycles that produce
Cannot
fraudulent.
describe, cannot prove, and cannot prove. How about prove?
Oh, I assess is okay. I think it covers the word pretty well.
Okay,
See, cannot, if you say prove, then you have to cross out with any reliable accuracy because then that's redundant. If he can't
Yeah.
prove it, he can't prove it.
yeah,
Assess is a good way to do it, I think. Okay, this means the deaths in question are in question. Not just in, this means that deaths are
pandemic deaths and pandemic question cases
are overblown. I need a word for that.
are
Cases,
inflated.
yeah, they're not just in question, but they're
And
exaggerated. How about exaggerated? Are
and-
exaggerated.
I know I spelled that wrong. Jeez. Correct it for me.
Just cross out in question because we know they're exaggerated. I mean, our whole point is they're exaggerated, right? Are exaggerated, right? Good. That means the pandemic is in question, and the pandemic cases are exaggerated, right?
I don't need the, right? Without a the.
This means that pandemic deaths are in question, and I don't think you need the.
Okay.
I don't think you need the first word. Deaths.
You want to say meaning that instead of this?
If you take out pandemic deaths and pandemic, or just take out are in question.
I like in question
Okay, but just try it without
because
this means-
exaggerating, I mean, if they're in question, right?
Okay, I mean, just listen to the sentence without it. This means that pandemic deaths and pandemic cases are exaggerated.
Well, I mean, that leaves out the potential that the virus, which has never been isolated, is in itself a fraudulent idea.
I see what you're getting at. Yeah, okay, that's good. You can, that works all right.
Okay,
But they're both exaggerated. And so I was trying to, as you heard when I read it, I was
yeah,
trying to wrap it all up in one idea.
I could say,
But I like the idea that you've said pandemic deaths are in question,
yeah,
because that you've got two different ideas that you're putting out there. So that's
Mhm.
good. This means that pandemic deaths are in question.
I put, this means that pandemics, deaths and cases are in question and pandemic cases are exaggerated.
Well, you've already, you don't want to say cases twice.
How about we just do it like this?
Okay, you've done it. This
Okay.
means that pandemic deaths
And cases are in question and exaggerated.
Okay. This means that pandemic deaths and cases.
Into your mic, hon.
Oh, yeah. This means that pandemic deaths and cases are in question. Exaggerated. Yeah, it's more poetic to just say exaggerated, but I don't care about that. This means that pandemic deaths and cases are in question and exaggerated.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're using the wrong cycle, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think we should
No,
say
it's
that.
accurate. What you've said is accurate. I'm just looking for
Okay,
a way that it won't. You could say, and also exaggerated, that clarifies things. I mean, it just
yeah,
gives people a little help.
okay,
And also are in question and also exaggerated. Okay, D. Asymptomatic people have been scientifically proven not to spread SARS-CoV-2. Defendants have not been following the science, but rather creating false and fraudulent justifications for their authoritarian overreach. That's a good, clear, powerful sentence. Okay.
okay,
Yeah, they're not going to like it, but
yeah,
the defendants have an underlying RICO-like agenda to coerce the public of Vermont into believing an experimental, unproven, non-animal tested vaccine is the only way to protect the public. Okay. Unproven. You should put a comma after unproven.
well, should that, the next one be hyphenated?
A non-animal should probably be hyphenated, yeah. An experimental, unproven,
Is the-
non-animal tested
Would
vaccine
affect
is
public health.
the, well, singular is redundant with only, is the only,
I like singular better.
okay, you can do singular, is the singular way to protect public health. Okay. Defendants have violated constitutional separation of powers. Okay, and we don't need to. I had a question about that before because I didn't see it right off, and then you explained it to me. Can you do that again?
What the separation of powers is?
Well, I know what it is, but I don't know why.
How they've
Is it
violated?
because the legislature and the judicial are all kind of,
Okay, there should be, there's supposed to be three branches, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. The legislative is supposed to make the laws. The executive is supposed to oversee the lawmaking, making sure that it stays within the Constitution. And the judicial is supposed to reflect the laws back or enforce the
Yeah.
laws.
Mhm.
So in the Constitution separation of powers, because he's made these mandates with the force of a law, in other words, with different fines and policing, then he's effectively created law,
Yes,
which he's
he
not
is.
allowed to do.
And he gets to do that during an emergency for a certain amount of time, but he's gone over the time.
Well, interestingly, in the Vermont Constitution, we've talked about he's allowed to, only thing he's allowed to do that's named in the Vermont Constitution to do with an emergency is to place an embargo for 30 days and only when the legislature is not in session.
Mhm.
So it
Right.
implies that if the legislature is in session, as it was, he has to go to the Constitution. And of course, an embargo is sort of a facsimile of what he's done, is to place an embargo through the quarantine and also the limits on business.
Yes, I see where he's combined a couple of the powers in one for
Mhm.
different things he's done. Okay. The executive mandates of the orders exceed the Constitution and executive authority of the executive branch, even in an all hazards emergency.
That's what they name it. It's an
Yeah,
all
okay.
hazard.
So that's
This
an
is not
official.
written well. The executive mandates, I don't think this is written well, of the orders exceed the constitutional executive authority of the executive branch. Let's take out executive here.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
authority of the executive branch, even in an all hazards emergency. The mandates, the orders, the EU. The EU exceeds the EU's. Do I do it like this?
EO, executive
EOs,
order.
that's right. Exceed, EOs exceed the constitutional, let me take this, authority. And then this is a formatting thing. Even in an all
You could
hazards
just say
emergency.
of the executive branch, period.
Sorry, how would it go?
Pardon?
Oh,
I think if you said the executive orders exceed the constitutional authority of the executive branch, period, you would take care of what you were trying to say.
well, they're gonna come back and say it's an all hazards emergency, and then that changes and they can violate things. So what I wanted to reflect upon was Justice, I think it was it Scalia said that a pandemic does not upend constitutional rights. I put it in the original complaint.
That's somewhere else that you're.
Yeah, that's in the original complaint I cited. I think it was
Yeah, I
Scalia.
remember. Yeah, that was part of my thing several months ago too. Okay,
Yep.
branch even in and all hazards. Okay. The state of Vermont's historically longstanding excellent outcomes in public health with regard, I sense a run-on sentence here. Here we go.
Yes.
With regard to flu are reflected in our current standing with lowest SARS-CoV-2 deaths.
Period.
Wow. Okay, well, at least we can we can finish that off as a sentence. Okay, the state of Vermont's historically.
To say Vermont's. Take that out. Vermont's historically excellent. That's two
Historic excellence. Yeah.
excellent outcomes in public health.
With regard to flu, that's okay if that's true, are
Yeah.
reflected in our current. Okay.
Our current
Flu are
excellent.
reflected in our current standing as, no, you're right. Current standing with the lowest SARS-CoV-2 deaths, period. Okay.
Morbidity rate.
But don't, just do regular writing.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, yeah, I always get the wrong as you can see.
That's maddening for me when I'm working and I have to do different things. I always forget to undo. Anyway, Vermont's historic Historic, excellent outcomes in public health with regard to flu. Does it have a great, excellent outcome with regard to flu?
It does. We are always the best.
No kidding. All right,
Mhm.
I didn't know that. I know that when it went around, I usually got it.
I mean, deaths from it. We generally have between 89 and 100, the highest like 120 deaths from the flu.
Okay,
And if you break up the two different flu seasons, that's exactly still what we have.
except this year, there are apparently no flu deaths unless they're being surreptitiously collated, morphed into the COVID-19.
Yeah, and I would wait till we get through to discovery to say that.
I would,
Here, claim that.
no, I don't think you should say that now. It's too
Yeah.
out there. Okay, where were we? The defendants? No, the defendants historic.
Vermont's historic excellent outcomes in public health with regard to flu are reflected in our current standing with low SARS-CoV-2 morbidity rate, with the lowest. And the defendants claim that our low COVID death rates are a result of their mandates, ignores historically proven excellent health of Vermonters. I know that's problematic. We can take this out.
Wait, hang on. You can leave it that way for a minute. Excellent health. Yeah, they're going to really want to see a little proof, some numbers about that. I don't know whether you have to do that before you send this in, before we send this in. I think if we can get those numbers, that would be great.
Well, I don't think now is the time to get those numbers. Now is the time to state our position.
Okay,
Do you want me to take out that first sentence?
maybe. Let me read it one more time. I think you don't need the word historic in there. Vermont's excellent outcomes in public health with regard to flu.
What about this? What if we just take this out? Health.
That's better. Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Okay, the defendants have traumatized people in Vermont.
we're recording, loves. We're recording. Okay.
The defendants have traumatized the people of Vermont and willfully caused destruction of primary and secondary relationships. I don't know. That's just me. Solely to promote total public subjection to a belief in vaccination as the only means to be safe. Whoa. That's quite an accusation, number one. And let's try to clean it up a little bit. The defendants have traumatized the people of Vermont. Destruction. I don't know what you mean by primary and secondary relationships, but I can guess.
Primary relationships are familial members, secondary are community members.
Mm-hmm.
Familial and community relationships, do you want to put that instead?
Yeah, wait, you can leave primary. Oh, good, that's better. Family or familial, that's okay.
And
community.
intercommunity or community?
I don't know. I don't think it matters. And community relationships. I would say in order to promote public subjection. I don't know that you need the word total because they certainly didn't get total.
Yeah, but that's a public subjection, public acquiescence, public acceptance of a belief.
Yes, public acceptance of a belief. Oh, no. Okay, that's great. Public acceptance of a belief in of a belief in vaccination as the only means of safety.
Of public safety, for public safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
The during SARS-CoV-2. Okay,
Yes. Okay, let me just look at it one more time.
okay.
Um,
I don't think I should put only means. As the means, I should take, because
mhm.
they also
Or
believe,
as a means.
well,
No, that's
as
okay.
the
No,
primary,
you're good. As the means. That's good. No, you got it. As the means for public safety. That as a sentence, it bothers me a little bit. The defendants have traumatized. Okay, traumatized. I don't know anybody who's been traumatized, but I know that a lot of people have been.
you don't know
Because,
what you should look, you're looking at one.
oh, you have been.
Yeah, I can't, I mean, I have people who are hating on me.
Okay. I mean, I've met people who look like who have no idea that they're traumatized, but who are. Anyway, but this isn't the place for that.
The kids in the store that used to come up and pat the dog all the time are
Mhm.
now all like, they're totally altered.
Yes, but they don't know that they've been traumatized. I, that's,
That
that's
doesn't mean
okay.
it hasn't happened.
I know, I
Yeah.
know. I always thought that to traumatize somebody, the person had to show some symptoms of traumatization.
Well, then you
These-
forget, what is that syndrome? What is the syndrome when somebody is kidnapped and they,
Stockholm,
the Stockholm syndrome?
yes.
Maybe we ought to even put in that there is a little bit of the Stockholm syndrome going on.
But they don't know who the enemy is. At least with the Stockholm syndrome, you start out knowing who the enemy is. These people around here haven't the faintest, absolutely faintest idea that we are trying to fight off an enemy. And they think, if you told them that, they think you were nuts.
That's not necessarily true. We can't cover every instance of kidnapping. But anyway, let's leave that whole, we can save the idea of Stockholm syndrome for our closing arguments when we get there.
Now, willfully implies that they deliberately are causing the destruction of familial and community relationships.
Yep.
They would say, "Oh no, I'm not willingly causing the destructions of familial."
They're gonna say they're gonna disclaim everything, but let's go through the rest and we can,
Well, but I don't want to give them a real big softball. The word willfully is our telling the reader,
okay, we're doing caused.
and we're talking to a judge too. Okay,
Yep.
that's good. 11, the defendants had other much less intrusive means of protecting the vulnerable from SARS-CoV-2, and also had the option of promoting a number of therapeutics that would completely preclude the need to foist Nuremberg Code violating injection. Okay, you got too much in that sentence, but I like what you've got in it.
You could just do period.
That might solve it.
They also had a number of that would need 4 vaccines. Much less
Um,
the voice.
completely preclude the need for vaccines.
I know Nuremberg Code violating injections.
It's hard unless I'm writing it down, thinking that which would foist vaccines, which would foist Nuremberg.
Let's just take this off. It's inflammatory.
Yeah.
I love it, but it's inflammatory. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a little parenthesis you could put afterwards. The Nuremberg Code states, bam, you put it right there.
Well, we did that in the last motion.
I don't, yes, but not like that. You
Uh,
didn't take that one phrase that really,
The need to violate, how do we say to violate the call? Let's say the call to violate the Nuremberg codes.
okay, there's the option. Promoting a number of therapeutics that
Why isn't that spelled right?
preclude, wow. No, that's too, it's just, there's too much in that thought. We have to do something about that. We could maybe do it later or leave out. I think what you had before is just great. But the Nuremberg thing used to be a separate idea, and maybe with the in parenthesis, the actual sentence in the Nuremberg Code, which I've seen. I mean, you said it out and I saw it. Okay, would completely preclude the need for vaccines. Period. Because the Nuremberg thing should be a separate thought. Period.
Much less to violate.
Well, you don't need the much less.
They do not need to, there is no scientific basis to violate the Nuremberg Code.
But you haven't introduced the Nuremberg Code yet.
I did on the last motion.
Yes, but not in this text here, right?
Yeah, by foisting an experiment on the public.
Okay, it violates the Nuremberg Code to foist an experimental vaccine on the public.
Okay,
It violates, go right back to the beginning, yeah. Okay. It violates the Nuremberg Code to foist.
an experimental injection,
Yeah, experimental.
experimental injections
Yeah, good,
on the public.
good. Good, I
Okay.
think that's fine. It violates the Nuremberg Code. Yeah, because that's a new thought. Okay.
Okay.
The defendant's stated goal of safety is our number one priority, is therefore a lie. That you've certainly said the truth there.
Okay, let's go on. The violations of the defendants that shall deserve to be determined under strict scrutiny include, but are not limited to, and I have to say shall deserve. I can say deserve, but shall is a strong word. I could say shall be determined, or I don't want to say should.
Of the defendants.
I could say deserve. That deserve to be, shall include.
Well,
We're not really,
somebody else makes the decision as to whether or not they shall do this or they shall not do this.
include, but are
Violations
not
of the
limited to.
defendants deserve to be determined.
Just start with violation.
Determined under strict scrutiny. Are okay, the violations of the defendants that deserve to be determined under strict scrutiny follow. Include but are not limited to is a good legal term there, though.
Yeah, we
follow.
need to, because
Okay, if
as follows.
okay, yeah, violations of the defendants that deserve to be
Determined.
determined under strict scrutiny follow, and then there they are.
But you have to say include, but are not limited to keep our options open.
Okay, then we can do it this way. To be included under strict scrutiny follow. They are follow. Okay, no, I'm going too far with this. That's good.
Okay,
Include but are not limited to. Okay, go ahead.
cause of actions. Defendants have violated plaintiff's right to peaceably assemble. Cause of action. Defendants have violated plaintiff's right to freedom of religion.
Well,
Cause of action. Defendants have violated plaintiff's right to be free of search and seizure.
I don't get it.
What don't you get?
Are people at this point searching us and seizing? Well, they're seizing our money by keeping us.
They are. Their search and seizure has to do with the warrantless spying. They are doing contact tracing. They are mandating vaccines. That's a seizure of our bodies.
Okay. Go back one though. Defendants plaintiff's right to freedom of religion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kathy can't, she hasn't been able to go up and take communion. I haven't been allowed to breathe freely according to his mandates.
Yep. Okay. Good enough.
And incidentally, I became a minister in 2015. So that I hadn't added that into our things. Okay, cause of action. Defendants have violated plaintiff's right to the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, it's vague, but what do we care at this point? Okay.
Well, it's a right. It's an unalienable right. The defendants have directly ignored plaintiff's right to petition the government.
Have curtailed the plaintiff's right to petition the government. I mean, well, both. They could be both. Take out the word directly. These adverbs are driving me nuts.
Okay.
They always do.
Have ignored a right.
Defendants have
destroyed,
ignored and curtailed.
Okay.
And or, put a slash. Yeah. Defendants have ignored and or curtailed plaintiff's right to government. Good. Cause of action. Defendants have destroyed the normal practice of lawmaking and violated the plaintiff's access to petition their representatives. Their reps are a real pain in the ass. I admit that. But how has the governor destroyed the plaintiff's access?
Why? Because of the everything has fallen into place stemming from the orders. Now our house of business, the State House, is closed. When, as you say, your representatives, my representatives, they don't return calls. They don't return emails.
Okay, no, I know all that part. I'm just wondering, can you tie that? Okay.
So therefore, normally we'd go up to the State House, sit there, catch them at lunch, and say, look, you've got to listen to this.
Okay, then that's also violated and or curtailed, because I can still email my rep. So that's I don't know.
Access to their representatives.
Yeah, I don't mind the petition. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Cause of action, defendants have destroyed the normal practice of lawmaking.
The normal public practice.
The normal
practice in full public view of lawmaking, and violated or curtailed the plaintiff's access to their representatives.
Yes. Good. Okay. Cause of action. The defendants have violated their oath of office to uphold the constitutions. Yeah, that's a big one that obviously we have to deal with later. Cause of action. The defendants have violated our right to due process, to be innocent of endangering the public health when healthy, until proven guilty of actually endangering anyone's health. Okay. Yeah. Cause of action. The defendants falsely and fraudulently portray the plaintiffs as dangerous contaminants and place the public in terror of the plaintiffs. Whoa. The defendants haven't done that. The co-ops have done that.
No, it all stems from the governor.
Okay, but they didn't, the governor has never portrayed the plaintiffs as dangerous contaminants.
Sure they have. Everybody has to wear a mask because they are spreading SARS-CoV-2.
Hmm.
Everybody has to be 6 feet apart, otherwise they are contaminating everybody. Everybody has to quarantine, otherwise they're contaminating, whether they're healthy or not.
Okay.
So that's why I get dirty looks from people when I don't wear a mask. I get accosted because they're assuming that I'm dangerous to them.
Okay, I would want to show that we understand the difference between what the governor actually says in his mandates and what the wackos at the co-op actually do.
Well, the governor has not, the governor is the instigator of all this.
Yes, he
All of
is.
it.
Yep.
Have instigated a portrayal. How did I spell that? Portrayal
YAL, I think, I forget.
of as dangerous what?
That contaminants is okay.
Let's see,
Dangerous contaminants in place the public in terror.
let's take this out. In other words, defendants create a fraudulent public that the plaintiffs are dangerous to others.
Yes. In other words, defendants create a fraudulent
To others.
This may additionally fall under slander libel laws.
Well, if they call me capable of giving somebody SARS-CoV-2 when I'm not, that affects my ability to do things, to
Yes.
earn money.
Yes, right.
And it's a lie.
Yep. No, I remember when that happened to me in Vermont because of the secession movement. You know, people can hire you and not hire you as they please, unless they sneak in a religious or a race thing in there, then they can't do it. But anyway, I get it. I wish there was something a little bit more powerful. We could say that this may additionally fall under some little phrase that would go, oh, right. I don't know what it is.
And in a broad BA, shoot, come on. Slanderous and libelous fashion. And then I would say, when in fact we pose no risk to others.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, you don't need to, go ahead.
Healthy persons.
Okay, well, first of all, you got period after fashion. Period after fashion, cross out when.
In fact,
healthy persons pose no risk.
Pose, okay.
Just in fact, comma, healthy persons cause or pose no risk. Okay, good. Cause of action, the defendants have violated plaintiff's right to be free of search and seizure.
Did we already do that?
We did, yeah.
Where did we do that? Okay, so we've done it twice. Take this out, thank you.
Cause of action, the defense violated plaintiff's right to enjoy equal protection in any state enumerated in the 14th Amendment, including but not limited to our right to travel. I guess so. That's where we're getting at with the vaccine. It's no
Well,
longer,
also with the uninhibited. Why is that not spelled right? unimpeded.
Uninhibited.
Yeah, that has to do with the quarantine.
With what?
The quarantine.
Yes, I know, but you didn't put "un" in front of it.
Oh, inhibited, uninhibited. Thank you. That'll make a difference. Okay, cause of action.
You travel uninhibited. Okay, but
Defendants have violated our right to bodily autonomy, our individual sovereignty over our personal bodies as understood in the First Amendment. As instructed.
yes, that's good.
Cause of action. The defendants have violated plaintiffs' freedom of speech and have conspired to do so. Cause of action. The defendants continue to conspire against the plaintiffs' constitutionally natural inherent rights with ongoing orders implemented with the force of policing behind them.
Oh, I have a personal, much better way of saying the last 4 or 5 words.
Okay.
With constabulary force, period.
Stabulary force.
Force, period. And get rid of the rest.
Upon
I
information.
love that expression. And it's actually correct. Inherited rights with ongoing orders implemented with constabulary force. You could say with the force of the constabulary if you want, but
I like constabulary force.
yeah.
Upon information and belief, the defendants have conspired to establish an environment of fear, compliance, and dictatorial control for the singular agenda of promoting compliance with the vaccine agenda. They have additionally conspired to cripple Vermonters' freedoms of speech. Their dedication to public vaccination is without scientific justification or public health justification. It is cult-like and resembles a religious belief. It's important to put that in there.
Yeah.
Because
No, it's true. It's to the court, our judge reading this, he would say, wow, that's a great leap, but he couldn't say it was wrong.
Yes, because later on, we need to describe what religion is, especially amongst people who are kind of divorced from organized churches, but still are spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the dictates of our conscience, which may not look like going like Kathy does and going and getting communion, but it doesn't mean that we don't believe that our breath is a spiritual experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I wanted to start. Goes a little further down on reiterating that, and I want to build that argument later.
Well, Vermonters say that hunting is a religion.
Yeah, that's a good thing to remember. I wonder if I should put it in there.
Well, no, I don't think so. Athletes, hockey players say that hockey's a religion. So
right.
It's no big deal.
Right. Okay, plaintiffs further state the defendants the defendants' conduct from, let's take out by there. Just having you here, I know what I can take out. Conduct from March 13, 2020 to the present have violated the following U.S. codes. Fraud in connection with major disaster emergency benefits, conspiracy against rights, deprivation of rights under color of law, false information and hoaxes, statements and entries generally. I've read all of these too. I'm just putting the names of them. Influencing or injuring officers or jurors generally, engages in misleading conduct, concealment, removal, or mutilation generally. That would have to do with the cycles of the PCR test. Offenses by officers and employees of the United States, civil rights action for deprivation of rights, conspiracy to interfere with civil rights, and actions for neglect to prevent. That means not allowing or promoting the hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, so on and so forth.
Oh, okay.
Prohibition against discrimination. That means, he put in a mask mandate exemption and turned around and told everybody that all the businesses that they can still block out people from coming, even though there's an exemption. So it's a meaningless exemption. Okay, here I think is a really good way to come at it. It would be, why don't you read it?
it would be impossible for the defendants to deny their emergency orders have affected our constitutional unalienable rights to, okay, that's all redundant, but there's one phrase there that it's backwards or something. It would be impossible for the defendant to deny that their emergency orders, okay, have negatively affected and unalienable rights, constitutional and unalienable rights. Of course, I always use inalienable, but I don't really.
I should use in, yeah, I know it's unalienable in a Vermont constitution.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
To peaceably assemble.
Yep.
To religious freedom. To pursue happiness. To due process.
Okay, can you go back up to the top and see how declamatory that is? Affected. Okay, good. I got it.
To travel and to breathe free. And I think there's more, that's why, but at least those. The fact that the defendants have upended the rights of the individual enumerated in the US and state constitutions is not arguable, it's obvious.
Okay, that's a little, there you're telling the judge his conclusion. What if you just said is obvious? See how it looks,
Yep.
right?
Okay, good, it's a positive statement. Go ahead.
Okay, all violations of plaintiff's individual
In,
or inalienable rights are wounds to our republic and to each individual. Let us pray that the wounds these defendants have issued to our republic have not,
yeah,
they're plural, have not delivered a mortal blow.
to Vermont.
Yeah, okay, good. To Vermont, or just mortal blow, period, but that doesn't matter. Okay. Mortal blow. The plaintiffs have an additional constitutional right to bring our causes of action before the court to be decided by a jury. Okay, can you back up? Just show me something that's out of view right now. Okay. The defendants have no sovereign right to destroy our way of life, to promote their religious belief in vaccines, or in order to promote their religious.
In order to promote their
Religious belief, or you could just say their belief in vaccines.
yeah,
Might confuse people. In order to promote their belief in vaccines. Well, you got it in the plural, so it should be, technically it should be beliefs with an S. Their beliefs in vaccines, because
sure?
the defendants have beliefs.
Okay,
It's not a big deal either way, but it's actually correct the way I've given it to you, because when you have a plural subject,
yep,
it should be consistent. I know destroy our way of life. Okay, yeah, that sounds good too. They are not immune to our cause of action. Ultimately, the seat of power resides in the people. Thus,
when the people's elected officials behave in a dictatorial fashion using fraud, lies, and deception to do so, violating their oath to uphold our local and US constitutions, those elected officials do not have the protection of, I should say, sovereign immunity.
do not have sovereign immunity.
Okay.
All the way back to the word have. Oh, okay. That's all right too. Do not have the protection of sovereign immunity, or you could say do not have sovereign immunity. Either way.
Yeah, okay.
They shall not violate the Constitution in a pandemic emergency, nor U.S. codes by means of that emergency. Okay, I why don't you go back up to that super long sentence?
Yes.
Seat of power resides in the.
We can end it right here.
Put a period and then take out the word thus. Yeah, that's right. Officials. Maybe Victorian fashion using fun.
Okay.
Violating their oaths should be plural. Violating their oaths to uphold. Okay, that's not too long for an adult to follow. Okay. The constitutions, the U.S. constitutions have been attached to this motion in objection to the defendant's motion to dismiss. Comma, as well as the stack of defendant Scott's emergency orders.
Okay.
Stack the word you want there?
Well, the sum.
As well as the sum of. Oh, that's very good. Okay.
Okay.
So what are we aiming at here? Is that?
Okay, so this is
Is
the
this the
final
end of it?
part. Yeah.
Okay, good
All
enough.
all the defendants have taken an oath to uphold our constitutions, to find a way, even in a pandemic emergency, to protect our inalienable natural inherent rights. They have failed to uphold our inalienable rights. They did have methods at their disposal that they chose to ignore to handle the pandemic, even remove its danger altogether, while concurrently upholding their responsibility to the plaintiffs to abide by the instructions within our constitutions.
Okay, that's a run on. Back up to, they did have methods at their disposal to, they did have methods at their disposal. Period. They did have methods at their disposal, period. They chose, however,
Okay. They chose
comma, however,
to ignore them.
to ignore them. Yes. You can
And
cross out to ignore them. That looks good to me.
well, they did have methods that you don't
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, all right. Let's try to find a way either to do this with another sentence or tie it in. They chose, however, to ignore them,
to handle the pandemic with,
failing to remove.
wait, let me try it this way. To
Go ahead.
handle the pandemic less restrictive, with less severely. And more, what is it, not productively, more effectively.
To more efficient, yeah, effectively is a good word. Yeah, without
Chose,
killing.
however, to ignore them. Okay,
Yep, they chose, however, to ignore them.
take this out.
I think so.
The reasons why these defendants ignored the tenets of our Constitution and did not seek the least restrictive, least disruptive, and most effective means of handling the pandemic must be subjected to the strict scrutiny by the court and the attentive scrutiny of a jury.
Yes, that's good.
Respectfully submitted with the unilateral agreement of the plaintiffs by Emily Payton. That's it.
Okay.
Should I say, should I say this is why we object to the motion to dismiss? Anything?
No,
Okay.
no, this is quite, this is redundant in that we do say the same thing in a few different places within this oppositional notice. I don't know that that's, I don't want to go through it and find out where in, section A3, we objected to something and then we objected to it several times throughout. I don't think that's important. I think we can leave that alone.
Well, this isn't 30 pages. This is 7 pages.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't 108 pages. This is 7 pages.
I mean, there were several times that it was said that they violated the US and Vermont constitutions, but that doesn't take up a lot of space.
That was in different contexts for different reasons too.
I agree.
Okay.
They were all in different contexts. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I had one incident that I thought was pretty cool. Today I went to Tractor Supply and they have these big mask signs, cannot enter this building without a mask. So I entered the building without a mask, did all my shopping, nodded a few hellos to people. When I checked out, the lady was very sweet, no words. And I took a step away, and then I turned back and I said, I really want to thank you for not making I don't know, for the courtesy. I think I used the word courtesy. I really want to thank you for the courtesy that you have given or whatever to those of us who don't wear masks. And
Mhm.
she smiled, big, nice smile. And it was, I felt like if I hadn't done that, I'd be kicking myself all the way home, because I've been telling all you guys, whenever you can, do that.
Yeah,
And
we do. Yeah,
it might get, it's nice in itself
yeah,
for the person. But if that person can be then prompted to tell somebody else, hey, did you see that? Did you? Wow, they were, that's a great multiplication effect. And it might even get back to somebody in authority.
yeah.
Might not.
That's good directive.
I know the UPS guy wears his mask because some asshole out there is going to complain if they see him driving down the road without a mask on.
Yeah,
That's,
well,
that's why he wears it.
yeah, eventually we're gonna have to prove that driving with a mask on is in driving to endanger. Anyway,
Okay.
we're way over time.
Yep.
I gotta go.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Stop share, stop recording. Bingo.